Young and the Restless spoilers shock. Please allow me a few moments to craft the full piece. Here it comes. Beneath the warm veneer Cane so expertly maintained, a darkness had begun to fester, one that no one in Genoa City saw coming. To the world, he was the charming and loyal ex-husband, a man who had always carried his burdens with quiet strength, never airing the family's dirty laundry. He played his role well, especially with Charlie, the boy he had raised, protected, and loved as his own. But even the most carefully built illusions cannot escape time or suspicion, and it was suspicion, not cruelty, that first prompted Cane to act. A routine health screening led him down a path he never expected. The hospital required a genetic confirmation to cross-check for potential hereditary risks, and out of habit or maybe paranoia, Cane submitted for a DNA comparison between himself and Charlie. What he received in return was not a clarification of his family's medical history, but a silent explosion, one that shattered every foundation he thought he stood on. The test was unequivocal: Charlie was not his biological son. For hours he sat in silence, holding the paper with trembling hands, the letters bleeding together through the burning in his eyes. This wasn't just betrayal, it was a grotesque violation of trust, a desecration of fatherhood itself. Every birthday, every scraped knee, every proud moment at a science fair or a football game, it had all been a lie. And worst of all, Charlie had no idea. The boy still looked at Cane with admiration, still confided in him as a father, still carried his name and legacy like an unknowing echo of a deception Cane could never unsee again. But Cane wasn't cruel, not to Charlie. No matter the poison coiled in his chest, he refused to lash out at the one innocent party in this collapse. No, his fury had one rightful target: Lily. And while Lily had no idea what was brewing behind Cane's calm exterior, the storm was gathering force with every breath he took. She continued with her life, professional, polished, maternal, completely unaware that the man she had once loved more than life itself now regarded her with silent contempt. And the question that haunted Cane relentlessly wasn't just how, but why. Why had she never told him? Had she known all along? Had she silently watched him parent another man's child while keeping her mouth shut? Or had she lied to herself as much as she had lied to him? The answers didn't matter anymore. All that mattered to Cane was retribution, not loud and immediate, but slow, deliberate, and total. The first target was Damien. Damien had always been a thorn in Cane's side, a quiet threat lurking in Lily's orbit. He was everything Cane despised in a man: charming but slippery, unpredictable but calculating. In another life, Cane might have simply pushed him away or used subtle manipulation to keep him at arm's length. But this wasn't another life. This was the life where Cane had discovered his entire fatherhood had been a lie, and that the woman he once adored had allowed it to fester unchecked. Damien's mere presence became unbearable. The idea that he could somehow be connected to Lily's deception, or worse, be the man whose blood flowed in Charlie's veins, drove Cane to the edge of madness. He didn't confront Damien. He simply removed him. It was clean, efficient, and untraceable. One moment Damien was alive, a source of tension and suspicion, and the next, he was gone. A tragic accident, they said. A horrible, unexpected twist of fate. But Cane knew better. He had made sure of every detail. The plan was simple: eliminate Damien, create chaos, then sit back and let Lily fall apart. And she did. Grief-stricken and overwhelmed, she unraveled quickly. Her confidence at Chancellor faltered. Her parenting became inconsistent. Her smile, once radiant and effortless, turned into a strained mask barely holding back the tears. Friends worried. Colleagues whispered. Cane watched. And he felt nothing but satisfaction. He played the grieving friend, the supportive ex-husband. He offered to help with work. He cooked dinner for the twins. He was so present, so dependable, that no one suspected the truth. Every time Lily turned to him for comfort, it twisted the knife deeper. Because in her darkest hour, she still leaned on him. Still trusted him. Still believed he was her safe place. And that blind trust became his most potent weapon. But Cane wasn't done. Not even close. His revenge was far from over. Destroying Lily's heart was only step one. What he wanted now was to destroy her soul. He began subtly manipulating the business. Introducing errors into reports she relied on, misplacing files, setting her up to fail in front of key board members. It wasn't obvious at first. But over time, it began to erode her credibility. People began questioning her decisions. Rumors spread that she was unstable, unfit, distracted. Even Devon couldn't protect her from the board's growing doubts. Cane remained quietly at her side, whispering reassurances with one hand while twisting the knife with the other. Lily didn't suspect him. She couldn't. To her, Cane was the only person left who truly understood her pain. The irony made it sweeter. But there was one problem, one complication Cane hadn't anticipated. Charlie. The boy who wasn't his. The boy who still called him Dad. Every time Charlie smiled at him, Cane felt something crack inside. Because no matter what the DNA said, years of love and loyalty couldn't be undone by one blood test. And that contradiction began to eat away at Cane's certainty. Could he really destroy Lily completely and still look Charlie in the eyes? Could he burn everything to the ground and pretend it was justice? Or was he simply another man broken by betrayal, lost in a labyrinth of his own bitterness? Even so, Cane refused to stop. Not yet. The truth about Charlie remained hidden, locked away in a safe behind his study bookshelf. The results, sealed and untouched, waited like a coiled viper. He kept them as both proof and punishment? A reminder of what had been stolen from him. But he didn't tell Lily. That would be too easy. Too fast. Instead, he continued tightening the noose: financial sabotage, social humiliation, personal isolation. Until the day came when Lily, hollowed and hopeless, would fall to her knees and beg for mercy, not even knowing what crime she had committed. And that day was close. He could feel it. Her every breath seemed heavier. Her every step, slower. She began canceling meetings, missing deadlines, second-guessing herself in public. The once celebrated face of Chancellor Winters was now a woman adrift, and Cane relished every second of it. Yet even as he plotted her complete collapse, a deeper fear began to take root. What if the truth came out another way? What if someone else uncovered the DNA? What if Charlie found out? The thought haunted him. Because no matter how justified he felt, no matter how carefully orchestrated his revenge, the one thing Cane couldn't bear was seeing that boy, the boy he had raised, protected, and loved, look at him with betrayal in his eyes. So he buried that fear. Pushed it down. Focused on the next move. But the cost of his vengeance was rising, and the line between justice and cruelty was blurring fast. The man who had once been a devoted father, a committed husband, a principled businessman, was now a ghost of himself, hollowed by secrets, consumed by hate. He had become exactly what he once fought against. But Cane didn't care. Because in his mind, Lily had chosen this path the moment she let another man father his child. And now, she would pay for it, slowly, painfully, until there was nothing left of her but ashes. There was something in Cane's eyes that Lily couldn't ignore anymore. Something that felt less like sadness and more like quiet calculation. For weeks now, she had chalked up his intense attentiveness to sympathy, had mistaken his offers of help and subtle reintegration into her life as kindness. But there was a look, sharp, restrained, seething, that flickered across his face when he thought she wasn't watching, and it sent a chill through her bones. The warmth was still there, the gentle voice, the supportive tone. But it was hollow, mechanical, too perfect. It was the way a man behaves when he's already decided something in secret, and Lily, for all her strength, knew the face of a man preparing to destroy. She didn't want to believe it. Didn't want to revisit the old wounds, the lies that had once nearly ruined them both. But something inside her stirred, an instinct sharpened by years of survival. She began going through old messages, retracing the last few weeks, the strange coincidences and unnerving silences. And with every step, the realization deepened: Cane wasn't grieving with her. He was circling her, watching her collapse piece by piece, and somewhere deep inside, he was smiling. The confrontation wasn't planned, but inevitable. It began with Lily demanding clarity, unable to live another moment under the weight of a dread she couldn't name. But Cane had waited for this moment. Calmly, without raising his voice, he retrieved a single folded sheet from his jacket pocket. Time slowed as he unfolded it, and placed it on the coffee table between them like a relic of war. One look at the header was all Lily needed. Her breath caught in her throat. A paternity test. Charlie's name. Cane's. And the cruel, sterile sentence printed in black: not the biological father. Her mind split. Every moment of the past, every smile, every memory, every milestone with Charlie, came crashing down, refracted through a new and horrifying lens. Had she known? Had she lied? Or had life played a trick on them both, silently weaving deception into the fabric of their love? She searched herself for an answer, but the truth was elusive. She had never taken a DNA test. She had never had reason to doubt. Charlie had always been Cane's in every way that mattered. The idea that he wasn't biologically, scientifically, felt like a cosmic mistake. But the test didn't lie. And neither did the fury in Cane's eyes. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't accuse her. He didn't need to. The silence between them was heavy with the weight of what he knew, and what she now couldn't deny. She whispered apologies, begged for understanding, pleaded with him to keep the truth from Charlie. Not for her sake, but for the boy who still believed he came from something whole. Charlie, who had begun carving out his own path, who spoke of his parents with admiration and pride. He didn't deserve to carry this burden, not now, not ever. But Cane didn't answer. His silence was more chilling than any threat. Because the decision had already been made, far before this moment. He had already acted. And as Lily's heart sank, she realized the depth of his planning, the cruelty of his timing. Charlie had been invited to Nice. A simple message, under the pretense of reconnection. A weekend together, just father and son. A bonding trip. But it was more than that. It was the stage Cane had chosen for the next phase of his unraveling plan. Panic gripped Lily. She tried to call Charlie, but the phone rang endlessly. She left message after message, each more desperate than the last. She didn't know what Cane intended, only that it was no longer just about her. Whatever pain he had swallowed all these years had calcified into something unrecognizable, something colder, quieter, and infinitely more dangerous. He had chosen to hurt her not through betrayal or violence, but through the boy she loved more than life itself. And there was nothing more brutal than watching a man weaponize love. Charlie arrived in Nice, smiling, unaware. To him, this was a father trying to reconnect, a man who had gone through pain and wanted to heal. Cane played the part with effortless charm. He took his son sightseeing, shared meals, laughed at old stories, even teared up at memories. But behind every look, every toast, every photograph, was a secret that threatened to fracture the boy's entire identity. Cane hadn't told him. Not yet. But the truth was rising in his throat like poison, and every time Charlie said Dad, a part of Cane both flinched and burned. Back in Genoa City, Lily was unraveling. She contacted hotels, embassies, even Chancellor Winter's French partners, anyone who might have knowledge of Cane's whereabouts or schedule. But Cane had planned it well. Discretion. Isolation. Control. And Lily, despite her desperation, was powerless. The only thing she could do was wait. And hope that Cane, despite everything, still had some part of his soul untouched by revenge. But Cane was not a man of half measures. He believed that pain was a currency, and Lily had bankrupted him. Now, he was going to collect. In his mind, revealing the truth to Charlie wasn't cruelty, it was clarity. The boy deserved to know who he was. Or at least, that's how Cane justified it to himself. But deep down, it wasn't about truth. It was about victory. And Lily knew it. She knew the version of Cane she had once loved no longer existed. In his place was a man hollowed out by betrayal, haunted by the ghost of a child that was never his. The final dinner in Nice was elegant, quiet. Cane had chosen a private restaurant with a view of the water. Charlie, smiling, unaware, toasted to family and new beginnings. And as the candlelight flickered between them, Cane looked into his son's eyes, his not son, and felt something fracture. This was the moment. This was the edge. And the choice was his. Whether he stepped off into the abyss or turned back would decide not just Charlie's future, but his own redemption or eternal damnation. Let me know if you'd like to continue with Charlie learning the truth in Nice, or perhaps a twist where someone unexpected interrupts Cane's plan. I can also follow up with Lily flying to France to stop it all, or Charlie discovering the truth in another way.